Hi, today I'm going to show you the first technique in fixing brioche mistakes, which is picking back up a dropped stitch. So to do this, first thing that I recommend you do, so you can see here that I have dropped down this column of brioche knit stitches. So generally I would recommend that the first thing you do is place a locking stitch marker into that dropped stitch as soon as you identify it so that it cannot run down any further. And you can actually fix the mistake with that in there, or you can take it out if it's getting in your way. So here you can see I've dropped down this column of stitches, and I still have these sort of loops of the light blue yarn sticking through under the dark blue yarn. And if you can maintain those, if you have a stickier yarn with some grip to it, like a natural wool, and those loops are still there, leave them. They can help you work your way back up. If not, if you're working with a superwash or another slippy yarn and those have disappeared, that's okay. We can still figure that out. And I'm gonna sort of straighten up my yarn so that I'm pulling those out a little bit so that you understand what you're working with, even if those aren't there. So the most common solution you'll see to fixing these drop stitches, just like you would in stockinette or in garter, is to use a crochet hook. I personally usually just use the needles that I'm working with, or a double pointed needle, but first I'll show you how to do it with a crochet hook. So first thing you're going to want to do is put your crochet hook into the stitch you're working, and I'm going to take out this stitch marker so that we can see a little bit better. So you can see here that we have this stitch that's been worked by the stitch that's on my hook, and this dark band over it, and that first darker blue strand is the yarn over that goes with that stitch that's already been worked, which makes this next band of dark blue yarn the yarn over that goes with the stitch I'm working. So we've got this stitch and it's yarn over, so we've put our crochet hook under the first darker band, and now we're going to want to knit this next stitch. And so you can see right now, I guess I didn't pull all my bands out fully, this light blue yarn is wanting to go under this dark blue yarn. And that is because that light blue is the yarn over for the dark blue stitch in the adjacent column. So I can just, if you have your stitches working out like that, you can see it goes under, over that other stitch to form the yarn over, and then under the bar that's there. And then I can just pull this through, forming my next stitch. So there, that first dark blue is now the yarn over for the stitch we just worked. This next one, we're going to go under to create the yarn over for the stitch that we're trying to fix. And now you see on this next one, I no longer have this light blue yarn sticking out wrapped under. So I need to create the yarn over for these adjacent stitches by sticking my crochet hook under that next dark blue color strand before I pull this light blue strand under. So you now see it wraps behind the dark blue strand, and now I'll pull through to work the stitch. And if you can hear my cat, she wants to be part of the video too. So we'll repeat this process. This first dark blue band is the yarn over for that stitch we just worked. Then we're sticking our crochet hook under one band. That's the yarn over for this stitch that we are working. And now we're going to go under this next dark blue band and pull this light blue under there to create the yarn over here. We should see that dark blue and the light blue crossed on both sides for the adjacent columns of stitches, and then pull that through here to finish off that stitch. So just keep working that up, going under one to create the yarn over for this stitch, going under the next one, and pulling this light blue yarn under all of those. Now we're almost to the top, so we're going to go, oops, I almost made a mistake there. So you can see this dark blue is the yarn over for this stitch. Here's the yarn over for the stitch that's on the crochet hook. And then we're going to go under this last dark blue, pick up the light blue, pull that under to create the yarn overs on the adjacent stitches, and then pull it through to create the worked stitch. And I can now slip this back onto the needles. And you can see that I have worked that column of stitches back up. So I will now drop that out again and show you my method, which is using not a crochet hook, but just the tips of the needles. Okay, so I've dropped it back just a few stitches. So normally I would do this with the tip of the needles that I'm working with, but I grabbed a double point just to be able to show you without getting the needles in the way quite so much. So I'm going to hook this stitch that's loose, keep that out of the way. We've got the yarn over for the lower stitch that's been worked. Here is the yarn over for the stitch that I'm working, and I'm going to pick up this first light blue loop and knit it through. Oops. So now I need the yarn over here to go with that stitch, and pick up this loop, and you can tell I didn't pull these out this time, so they're just sitting there nicely waiting for me. Knit that through, and now again leave one dark blue to be the yarn over for that stitch we just worked. Pick up the yarn over that goes with this stitch, and then oops, this one did come untwisted, so we need to pull this yarn from behind, pick that light blue loop up, and knit it through. And then again, we can put that stitch back on the needles. And the thing I like about doing it this way is it helps me be able to understand the relationship between the stitches and work it as if I'm knitting them, which helps prevent me making mistakes. And it also is good practice for when we're fixing more complex mistakes and we'll need to drop down multiple columns of brioche stitches at the same time, at which point it becomes very tedious to fix it with a crochet hook, and you really do want to knit it back up. So here you go. You can see we've now fixed the column of knit stitches, and it looks nice and neat on the back as well. And that is how you work your way back up with a dropped column of knit stitches. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye out for more upcoming videos on other techniques for fixing brioche mistakes.